Q&A event. My name is Anna-Marie Fanthorpe and I am your host today. Welcome to Digital Boost Q&A. We love these sessions. Today we have some returning guests. They are digital marketing experts and always produce such great value. We get so much good insights in the chats that they bring to us. So Gal and Vika are here from Primo Digital, and we're going to be talking about search engine optimization today. So we'll get right into it. It's a huge topic. Obviously, it's usually just shortened down to SEO. So if you didn't know what SEO meant, that is search engine optimization. And we're going to get deep into that today because it's super important to being seen online. Now, we are streaming live on a couple of platforms. So depending on where you are, if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn or on Facebook, or if you're with us here on Zoom, you can use the chat function, the Q&A function, or the comments section of those live feeds in order to communicate with us. We would love for you to ask questions and get them answered by the experts, because that's why we run these sessions. So make them work for you and your business, get the most value out of them. Now, I just want to say before we get started, if you join with us on the live platforms, but you're not registered to Digital Boost, you're missing out, okay? Because we have provider offers and special deals, competitions, and heaps of other content that's available on digitalboost.co.nz. Get yourself registered so that you can get all of the benefits of this fully funded program. It doesn't cost you anything. So Gal, Vika, thanks so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you on.
Thank you, Anna-Marie.
Thank you so much, Anna-Marie,
for having us again, and welcome back to anyone that's joined us from the previous sessions. So as Anna-Marie mentioned today we're gonna talk about search engine optimization. It is a giant beast, so we'll start right at the beginning.
I'm gonna drop my video off actually and let you guys just jump right in. I'll be, do you want to take questions throughout or at the end?
Up to you guys. I'm just really bad at also looking at the screen at the same time as looking at the chat box. So
yeah,
I can
kind of do that
anytime.
I'll do that. I can jump on, and if you see my face, I'll wait for a pause, and we can answer the questions.
And in the end, we've got a little, like, such a good surprise for all of you. So we will be doing some interactivity. So if you know your website URL, you can just feel free to put that on the chat box below, and then we will evaluate your SEO.
Ah, cool.
Well, I love one of the components anyway, because with SEO optimization, you kind of looking at a lot of things, which we'll cover. So without further ado, SEO optimization. So search engine optimization, which is how Google or any other search engine like Bing or Yahoo, Google, I think, is basically like the massive monopoly in the New Zealand market, or at least in the Western world. So that's, over 90%. Bing does still have a share. I think in the US, it's like 20% at this point. So depending on, I guess, where your business is targeting, it's still worthwhile to optimize it. But if you're optimizing it just for Google, then it'll carry over across to other stuff as well. So essentially what we're trying to do with this optimization of your website is to try and get Google to rank it as highly as possible based on the terms that someone is putting in. So we'll talk a little bit about how it works, but the gist of it is if you manage to have good value content, it's a safe site, it's a fast site, then Google will say, okay, cool. Well, if someone is searching for this particular thing, you're a great match. So I'm going to rank you highly. So that's really great because you don't have to pay for traffic like you do with obviously paid media like Google ads or Facebook ads or anything like that. But it does take a while to actually get Google to rank you. So if you haven't done any SEO whatsoever, or if you just got a website today, if you start working on your SEO, you'll probably notice your ranking improving after about 3 to 6 months. So just keep that in mind because it is not overnight. However, it is going to be there for a very long time. So without further ado, let's just cover off what we'll be talking about today. So what is SEO? We'll talk about kind of how it works, how you guys can start if you haven't done it before, some tools that you can use as well. So there's a lot of free stuff out there, and we'll put links to that in the presentation as well that you can use. and trying to figure out what it is that you're going to focus in the short term and the long term. And obviously we'll take questions as well throughout. And hopefully after this presentation, you'll have a better idea of where to approach your SEO from and how you're going to start working on it.
And before we jump straight into that, let's just quickly introduce ourselves. I'm Gao, my business partner Vika, and we are digital marketing experts. We've been for our industry for more than 10 years each, and we are so passionate about digital marketing channels, paid media, SEO optimization, lead generation. So really working towards like giving the business owners the tools, the knowledge that can be used to scale their businesses. So we work quite a lot with e-commerce businesses. So probably majority of our clients are e-commerce business owners and service providers and SaaS companies. So we would love to give you all the knowledge or tools for SEO optimization so you can start working towards your SEO and your ranking today. And what the SEO means is also why it's so important and why so many companies are paying attention to SEO is because it's the free traffic. Who don't want to get the free traffic, right? And then it's the opportunity for you to rank higher and to get more people, more eyeballs to your website. And obviously for the free traffic, it's probably more trustworthy traffic than the paid media, because compared with that, we found the statistics that only 2.5% are actually clicking on paid advertisement, because people see this is the ad, right? And even if it rank more higher, but people will actually want to get more context on depending on what they're searching for, right? If the SEO was set up correctly, if you will continue working on development your SEO strategies, then obviously it will give you results in a long-term basis, like in 4 to 6 months, depending on how advanced you will go with that. And obviously it will give you so much opportunities to get more revenue into your business. Obviously it's all easy to get started with that. We will go step by step. It's very easy to measure that, because you obviously with the right setup on Google Analytics, you'll be able to see how much organic traffic you are getting to your website and what people are actually searching for, and so on and so on. So it's actually good always to measure. We always encourage people to analyze your back end of your website through Google Analytics.
So you don't have to be a super like programmer or anything for all of this kind of stuff. Like it, I guess if you haven't done anything like this before, it might just be a little bit of a learning curve for you to understand what the terms mean, but the logic of it is not super difficult. So just kind of skipping a little bit ahead, the way that like Google and everything measures or I guess ranks you and to see how relevant you are is if you think of the internet as this big library, right? And so Google is a librarian and you're a person that comes in and says, I would like information on this thing. So Google needs to obviously know the contents of all of the books in that library, how relevant they are to you, and how easy it is for you to find the exact information that you're looking for. So if you have your website set up correctly, if you continue to improve it, if you continue to have really relevant and useful content, then Google will say, okay, this book or this website is really relevant to this particular search query because it talks about it a lot. Lots of people are sharing it. Lots of other people reference it as well. So like links back to your site. And so for you, SEO is not just something that you do once and kind of forget it. It's something that is ongoing, which is why it does take a while to ramp up with the ranking, but it's also something that you can keep doing and keep improving. So just I guess keep that in mind when we talk about this, because it's not kind of one and done type thing. You need to make sure that you communicate to Google and to the people at the same time how relevant you are to that particular query. So some information here. This is from a website called moz.com, which is like a really big SEO software company. And essentially it gives you an idea of what is important for that ranking. So Google looks at a lot of different things. It's sort of like this recipe or algorithm that it uses to identify, does your website have these particular ingredients, and how much of them, and how closely they are matched to an ideal. So the number one thing is the fact that Google can find your website. So when we talk about crawl accessibility, if you are just building your website, it might not be visible to Google. Or if there's some new pages, or if there's some other issue, essentially Google needs to see your website first before it can identify whether the content you have on there, the structure you have on there, is going to be a good match for someone looking for a particular thing. So that's kind of the second part as well. I'm just going from the bottom in case you guys are lost. So you need to make sure the site is seen, and you need to have information that is going to be relevant. So there's a few different keyword tools that we'll talk about as well, but there's a bit of an overlap with SEO and paid text ads, specifically for what people are looking for. So if someone is looking for a plumber in my area, or plumber in Auckland, or plumber in North Shore, or plumber in Devonport, then those are all different kinds of queries. So if you were to do paid ads, or if you were to do SEO, those are the kinds of queries that you want to include somewhere on the website as your keywords, because you need to anticipate what people are going to be searching for. Because if your plumbing website just has plumbers New Zealand, and it doesn't have things like Devonport, Auckland, North Shore, then people looking for that there's not going to be that overlap. So Google will not think that you are as relevant as someone that does have that mentioned on their website. So it's just kind of like a really simple example. There's a little bit more to it. And we definitely don't want you to just, include like plumbing Devonport 45 times on each page, because Google will see that and actually see that it's, you're trying to fool the system. But you do need to have really good and valuable content as well. And of course, the keywords that you're looking to rank for. So try and also think about what your potential customers might be searching for and what you don't want to be appearing for. What else have we got? We've got the great user experience. So we've talked about before, how quickly your website loads, how easy it is to find the information that someone is looking for. If there's like 50 million annoying pop-ups before you can actually read the article that you're looking for, that's probably not great user experience. So keep in mind that you want someone to be able to make the decision within a couple of clicks. So if it takes them a long time to find the content, a long time for the page to load, there's a lot of distraction, then it's not going to be a great user experience either. In terms of sites linking back to you, so that's your backlinks, that's actually really important from Google's perspective, because you show that the information is so good that even other sites want to send traffic to you because it's so relevant. Now, there is a little bit of a nuance here that you can't just go and put your link to your website on 100 different sites that you just create today and say, okay, I've got all these great backlinks. Google is a bit smarter than that. So the artificial intelligence actually looks to see whether the links that are coming back from each site, whether it's a good site to begin with. So if someone is linking to you from, I don't know, the New York Times, that's going to be a really good link because it is a legitimate site. It has a lot of its own, really high ranking. It's good that it's linking back to you. But if you have 100 little sites that are linking back to you that are really dubious or like really shady, then those links are not going to be considered as important. So that's going to reduce your ranking, whereas one big really good website linking back to you is actually going to help improve it. So definitely don't try and fool the system. But it's really important that the backlinks that you get to your site are from legitimate other websites as well. Now, we'll move on to the top of the pyramid here, which is probably some of the easiest stuff to implement, the quickest anyway, and that's the title, URL, and description of your site. So this is actually information that you edit in the back end, and we'll have a little bit of an example further down in the presentation, like meta descriptions, meta title, that's what they're called. If you go to any website, you can have a look in the code to see what it is, and that's what communicates to Google what your website is about. The reason that it's important is because Google can't necessarily, identify what the website is about just from some of the content. So you might have a lot of pictures, or you might have a lot of other information, but what is really, you want to make it as easy for Google as possible to see that this is what the site is about. This is what kind of services or products or information it provides, and this is these are the keywords that are used in those titles and those descriptions that match with the user searching for those keywords, and also match the content on the site. So there's a kind of overlap of plumber Devonport this is where plumbers in Devonport, we service the Devonport community for all their plumbing needs. So I'm just thinking of Devonport because of the COVID stuff recently. So there's definitely more examples than that. But yeah, you do want to be consistent with what kind of queries and what kind of keywords you want to be ranking for. And a little bit further up, you've got snippet and schema markup. This is a little bit more complex. So this is kind of more detail on how Google will understand what your website is about, like what the structure is, how you describe all of the elements. So that's important, but it's not as important as all of the other stuff that we've just covered. So if you're going to start anywhere, make sure that your site can be seen by Google, and that you have a lot of really good content that's not copy pasted from somewhere else, because that's one of the really bad things that Google doesn't like is duplicate content. So if you have a blog, or if you have whatever different pages with content that you have, it's really important that you're consistent with updating it regularly, but also that the content is unique. Because if there's duplicate content, you actually, as with other kind of bad things that you might be doing, you'll get penalized. So your ranking might actually drop. So keep that in mind, and let's move on.
Yeah, we've got such a good questions here on the chat box below.
Oh,
so
okay.
Let's
cover those first.
Try to answer one of them. So I have defined some keywords that I assume my customer. So we just talked about the keywords, right? So Vika, would you mind to show us the Google? But is there somewhere that I can find some stats about what customer in my industry actually searching for? So that will be Google Trends, probably the best source for that. So you can easily find what are the keywords and what is it trending in your particular area. Say, for example, we are looking at.
Yeah, one thing I would say, even something like Google Keyword Planner would be good. There's a lot of different tools.
Let's show both. Maybe let's show how Google Trends works. Say, for example, we are looking at something like, I don't know, like supplements New Zealand, right? And then we can find what's the volume of supplements New Zealand looks like. And for example, Taranaki, that's probably the area that you can might focus on. They have plenty.
So collagen's very popular. Chemist Warehouse, super popular.
Yeah, Chemist Warehouse is probably number one, right, on the ranking. So that's one tool. And the second one is Keyword Planner, right? So you can get an exact numbers on how much you should spend on for a particular keyword. Or
there's a few different sites. So Keyword Planner is if you have a Google paid ads account. If you haven't got that, something you might do is you can actually I think you can register for free for Semrush, which is another thing that we use, but let's say like a keyword magic tool. So I've got, let's go with plumbing. I'm just using plumbing as an example because there's always tons of searches for it. And you can see approximately how many searches there might be. So South Auckland plumbing is about 720 people looking, and it's kind of consistent trend. If I was to spend money on it, it'll be pretty expensive. But if I keep going, you can see there's a lot of brand things as well. Drainage, service, let's say New Zealand. Here, so plumbing, Auckland, New Zealand. That's probably a little bit
and a great
niche.
way also is to look up on your competitors' keywords. It's also something you can do with the Semrush as well, just to see what kind of keywords people are using in your industry, in your area, like your competitors, you yourself.
Yeah.
And then find
So what's the plumbing business?
Semrush's got a free trial for about 2 weeks, I think, and then it's cost about 150 USD.
But I think that
so it's got a different plans depending on your plan.
Yeah. Sorry, we don't work for Semrush. This is just a tool that we use pretty regularly. So just for you guys to get some ideas of what people might do.
I just wanted to say that I've popped in some links into the chat. So if you go into the chat, you can see the trends.google for the Google Trends. And I've also popped in the Semrush, probably for small businesses. You don't really need to buy a plan. You can just have a use of the free kind of aspect there.
Yeah.
There are some free aspects. I didn't put in Google Ads. Like I didn't put in the keyword planner just because it takes you to the Google Ads link. So
but we're creating the account on Google Ads. It's actually free, so you can play with it. You can play with the tools, and also before you actually spend certain amount online, Google gives you also $100 credit to start advertising with Google.
But anyway, let's get back to the SEO stuff before we get distracted by paid again.
Can I just mention one more thing? I just want to mention one more thing about that Google Ads. Am I delayed? Is my video delayed?
A little bit. There's a little bit of like stuttering.
I'm just going to speak slowly. I just wanted to say that there's a free offer from Google if you're registered to Digital Boost with Google Ads. So check out the offer because it's a bit of money. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm just going to wrap up with Semrush here, but this is just one of the first ones that I saw when I Googled this, the South Auckland plumbers. And you can see that their top organic keywords are things like plumber, South Auckland plumbing, plumber Auckland, plumber Pukekohe, and also other things. So this is quite useful to also see, like what competitors are doing. And with a branded traffic, so branded is using the name of the business in the search and whether that particular query has led to an organic click that someone's taken to get to the site. So if, I guess, with these guys, South Auckland Plumbers is their name, but it's also kind of like an area search. If it was Mr. Plumber, for example, that would be a little bit more clear that it was branded. But yeah, you can also see what kind of keywords they're bidding on. So 24-hour plumber, plumber New Zealand, all that other stuff. So some buying opportunities.
Good URL name. So it's actually match the keyword. So it's something that you also would consider when you are like setting up your business. So the next question we have from Maria is about how do you know what the backlinks are? So the easiest way to do it like free and really quick is just to type in your business name or your URL or some of the main keywords that you have on your website, and then see what people tagged as your business name. And then oftentimes it might be the publication that you recently had for your business, or things like someone like tagged you in, or someone wrote a blog about your service or product. So that will be your backlinks. Obviously, you can see it here on Semrush as well. If you will be using this tool, it will also show you all the backlinks and even show the competitors' backlinks as well, so you can find out more about what
they use as well. One thing I would say is we probably won't have time to go into it in too much detail today, but there's a tool that we've linked in the presentation called Screaming Frog, and this is also a free tool that you can use to kind of simulate how Google would crawl your website, and and it will also show you things like the backlinks, and if there's any really obvious areas that it needs to it needs to access. One other website that I might recommend is seoptimal.com. So they actually have I think you can do like 5 free crawls a day, maybe. But if we're going to go with Old South Auckland Plumbing, so I'm sorry if anyone is from there or who works from there, just going to go through all your website. This is kind of like a really basic crawl where it's shows you, some of the backlinks that you have, approximately how much traffic you have. It's not the most accurate tool, but it's definitely a really good place to start. And let's see if it loads. It's taking a while. There's a lot of stuff on the site. But it's really useful to see if there's anything missing that it identified by doing the scroll. So either Screaming Frog, which is one of the tools we mentioned, you do have to download it, but you just kind of put your URL in and it just goes through your whole site and says, hey, here's the stuff that's missing. Here's and there's a lot of information on how to use it, but that's probably a little bit more complex. This is a little bit more simple, and it shows you, if I go all the way to the bottom, so title tag, this is what the title tag is, but the recommendation is that it should be under 70 characters. Theirs is 71. And the description tag, this is what, this is how they communicate to Google what the site is about. Header tags, they've got a few. And what kind of keywords they have and how consistently they're placed on the site, how much content they have. How they describe images, because as we talked about before, Google doesn't necessarily understand what the image is about, whether it's just a pretty picture or whether it's an infographic that's useful to that particular content. So if it's described in any way, there's a few different other tags. This is really, really important. So if you guys haven't got it, this is secure certificate. It's when you go into any website, how you've got that, I hope you can still see my screen, but at the top, you've got that little lock. And if you have a website that doesn't have the little lock, it's kind of like unlocked. Google doesn't think it's a safe site because it doesn't have that certificate. To get it, you basically just have to go to your provider. And it depends who your hosting provider is, but sometimes it's free, sometimes it's $10, sometimes it's like $200. So it just depends on what company you're with, and so that essentially communicates to Google that this is a safe website that's not going to steal someone's information, not going to steal their credit card details if those exist. But yeah, it's you actually can't run paid ads without having your websites being secure as well. So keep that in mind. A little bit more is kind of the sitemap stuff. We won't cover it in this presentation that much, but it's kind of like the sitemap, the instructions to Google as to where everything on your site is, so that Google can take less time to find it, especially if you're updating content regularly. Keywords, total traffic, and number of backlinks. So there is 22 links on the page and number of backlinks. I guess I'm just showing you guys the free trial. But if you sign up to the free trial, I think it also shows you the whichever backlinks are coming back to the site.
Mm-hmm. So the tool called Seo Optimization, and it's got a free trial, so you can sign up for the free trial and try your website in there and go to all the information you needed to maybe give to your developer as well. So another question we have is, I have a service business based in Auckland and use Auckland on my website a lot, but should I also use area as well as North Shore? For example, so I think when it comes, depending on what
local, yes, I would say.
Yes,
not necessarily to change your URL or anything like that, but the content that you have on the website, you do want to include it. So if you have blogs or if you have areas of service or testimonials, you do want to kind of pepper that quite liberally throughout the website. So if you are let's say you're servicing Albany, and you're still a plumber, we're going to continue with that example. So you might say, hey, we're an Auckland plumber servicing Albany. Here's reviews from Tracy in Albany. Here's reviews from Tracy in Glenfield, Auckland. So you do want to kind of think of what content you have and how you can, supplement it with the keywords that you want to be showing up for, because local is really, really important to Google. So if I'm in Albany and Gal's in, in Ramiro or something, if we both look up the same query, I might see your website ranking higher because it's closer to me and it's local and it's more relevant to me than Gal, especially if I look up, plumber near me or something like that. So hope that kind of answers the question. So let me just open up the chat so I don't miss anything as well.
And then we do have one more question. Is about helpful. Is it helpful to have a weekly blogs on a website? Or so I would say, so to answer this question, I would say quality matters than quantity. So instead of having a weekly blogs and pushing yourself towards like it's a bit like very, how's it called? It's better to do one good blog in a month, for example, in 1 month, and have it's all optimized and adding a lot of like meta description and make it really dive nice. So really good quality content, maybe some adding some videos on it, instructions and infographics. So beef it up and do this instead. Like having a weekly like blog. So if it's a micro theme, so always good. But it's also important to have a like updated content on your website, because sometimes we do have a headers like marketing trends 2020, right? And we're 2021. It's always good to kind of refresh it a little bit and then change it to 2021 to show the Google that you've got such a fresh content. So I would say quality matters than quantity.
But it's still important to be consistent. And the reason for that is Google wants to see that you are working on your site continuously. It's not that you've just done it and last time you updated it was 3 years ago. Is that you're coming back, so information that you have is up to date, it's still relevant, and people are still interacting with it, which is why you'll see so many websites having blogs. They're probably like 80% for search engine consideration rather than people, unless they have some really, really great content, which you all should. Okay.
Should we just get back to the presentation and then cover couple of important things and then get back to the Q&A section? We've got quite a few.
Sounds perfect.
Okie dokie. Let's get back into it then. So we're just gonna cover off this first then. So Gal, do you want to unmute yourself?
So obviously there is one misconception, right? When we're talking about SEO optimization, people always think it's all about me. It's all about my website. It's all about my content, the way I present, the way I show up, everything on Google. Like, here we are, my website. Google, please rank it high, right? But it's not about that. It's about all the users, right, who are looking for information. And there is a 3 type of information people are looking for, and you need to be aware of what type of intent or what type of query people are having, like when they type in on Google. So the first one will be informational. So the information, maybe they doing some research or they buying some expensive camera, for example, and they want to have a nice comparison on what type of what model to look at, and pros and cons, and so they are doing their research. They want to have a full information. And these blogs that we all read these blogs, right, before we actually make a very important decision on buying something. We are looking at on very detailed blogs before we jump and buy it. So the next one will be navigational search. It's when people are look in specific website. They know, for example, they go and they open Apple website. They know exactly what they're looking for. And what's really important here is you will have a clear structure on your website. If it's just a product, if these products are on sale, or if it's just your blog, so people can easily access these websites with one click. And yeah, remember the golden rule of like no more than 3 clicks, right? So people want to see and find very quickly what they're looking at. And don't forget about mobile version as well. Mobile version navigation is a bit different from desktop. So there are a lot of things to consider. And sometimes we often find mobile versions of the website, it goes a little bit slower. So you need to check your website speed as well in order to get people like information really quick. So 3 seconds, I would say this is the most common like time when people are actually want to find information, see it, and they're so impatient. Please give them this information in time. And the next one will be transactional. So they want to buy something, and it's for e-commerce business, any e-commerce business owners here. Also really important to have your cart open, and maybe on a homepage itself, like just simple tricks like adding some, for example, adding just one button, like say add to cart on a homepage would definitely increase your conversion, because it's all there. People know exactly what they're looking for. They just add into the cart, bam, it's on the cart as well. So no more than 3 clicks, get people to easily find and access your information. So in that way, it probably will be, you will succeed and will be fulfilling their inquiries online. So that's really important to keep in mind. So this is a little bit like juicy details. We wouldn't go very techy with that, but we just wanted to show you what are the 3 main areas that you need to be looking at. It's the ALT text, meta description, and what was the third one, Vika? Just trying to, so there was a meta description, the ALT text, and also the title text. Here we go, title text. So these are the 3 ones that's really important for you to keep in mind. And when you name in your titles, or when you name in your URLs, it's really important to have these relevant keywords that you will be optimizing. So the meta description, for example.
Yeah, let me skip ahead so that we can, I think it's quite ahead, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here we go.
So before, I remember about that. It's just the meta description, for example, when you are, so HTML elements that exactly phrases that people are searching for. So the more detailed, the more relevant this will be, the better chances that people will actually click on that. And then the ALT text, it's something that when people are actually alternative text, like that's images, for example. And when people are searching for some infographics, remember when you're searching for infographics, there's some few of them that you can see on image section. So that's really important for the ranking on the image section. So if you put the nice ALT and high relevant text on there, then there's more chances that people actually click on your image and they will download what they want.
Because I think, it's worthwhile also mentioning that sometimes when you have an image of text, like a screenshot or a someone's review, if it's an image, then Google is not going to see the words in that image. It's not going to use them for your ranking. So it's really important that you kind of either describe the image or have it, have that review in a text format rather than a screenshot. Because I think a lot of websites now have like screenshots from Facebook Messenger comments and that kind of stuff, but that doesn't really translate well to improve your rankings if Google doesn't know that it's a review and it can't use those keywords or text in that image. The last one I think you mentioned was the title tag here. So let me just across. So the title I think we've talked a little bit about before. It's how the website is presenting itself to Google. So if you don't describe it as anything, Google sometimes will try and kind of mix and match to see what it might be. But it's really important for you to know exactly how your website is seen when someone is searching for it. Same with meta descriptions. So if you haven't done it before, you might see some existing meta description that Google has just taken from your website because you haven't told it what to use instead. So yeah, I guess everyone's going to go and Google their website now to see what stuff is coming up. No page is coming up on, but yeah, definitely improving it is one of the easiest and fastest things. So let me just
I think we should cover good practices and bad practices of SEO, because that's really important. And then we can do interactivity part as well.
Yeah.
One of the also really quickly. So these are the 3 key factors that impact your ranking. So it's actually summarize everything we talked about today. So the first one is the page content. Obviously, you want to make sure that the text and your keywords are high relevance, got a high relevancy. You're using it on your ALT meta descriptions, tags, and look at it as from each page perspective rather than the whole website. It's always easier to see and look at on the homepage and see what are the meta descriptions are there. About us maybe will be a little bit different one. The product page has got the information more about the product rather than about your company, right? So in that way, it's so important to have your thumbnail set up, your ALT text, all the search terms, keywords, and maybe some synonym of keywords as well.
Yeah, I was just going to interrupt really quickly. So thumb is an easy way for you to remember things like title tags, which is T, heading tags, H, U is URL, M is meta description, and B is body content. So that's your rule of thumb, is your title, heading, URL, descriptions, and content, or body content.
And then obviously have everything ready for users to find out all the information. You got to check your website speed. Mobile, please, mobile version, it's crucial. Check your mobile version, make a really high quality content about your specific industry or about specific topics. And then the bounce rate, obviously you want to also just simply achieve users' objective. And the last one will be the backlinks we talked about. So that summarizes all the 3 key elements that you need to consider.
Could you tell me what the M and the B stood for again? I'm just typing.
Meta description.
Meta description.
And we do have a question about that. Just what is a meta description?
Yep. So meta description is in the back end of your site. So if you made it in WordPress or any other way, this is the coding. Let me just
can you show that it shows visually?
Yeah.
It's good.
Where is it? There you go. So this is what it looks like. So in the coding of your site, and depending again on which platform you're using, there's usually really easy points where you can access it. But here the description will be description of page here, right? So if that is what is still there, when I Google this particular website, instead of this little example by Moz, it will say description of page here, which is obviously not a great look because it doesn't tell me anything about the website. And it looks like the site is still being built.
And what was the B? What was the B?
B was body content. So basically how the content that you have.
And the meta description, just to add on that, it's from 155 to 160 characters. So quick, maybe snippets about what is the website is all about and what are your services all about. So adding the keywords in there.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump back into this other one we were looking at with the Auckland plumbers. Where is it? Meta description. So this is what their meta description is. So welcome to the South Auckland Plumbing New Zealand. So you can see South Auckland Plumbing New Zealand, plumbing. We are specialist plumbers, 24/7 plumbing services. So you can see plumbing is very heavily mentioned
used
here.
Yeah.
So Auckland and surrounding areas.
But try to, people are thinking the more plumbing word I would put on my website, the better. But it's not going to work this way because these AI algorithms works in a way that it's actually you're using more rich, I don't know, language. I would say it's better than when you just, instead of repetitive keywords, try to use it differently. Try to say self-plumbing, like Auckland plumbing services, maybe instead of just like plumbing services everywhere, just use like alternative keywords.
But yeah, there's lots of different things we can talk about for meta descriptions. If you are interested, there's also, you can just Google like best practices for things like meta descriptions, for URL building, for title tags as well. Basically, you want to include your keywords, have a call to action, and make sure that it makes sense to whoever's searching for it. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of like the basic gist of meta descriptions. Let's cover off the good and bad things, which I guess is kind of a bit of a spoiler now because we've cycled through it a few times. But yeah, maybe I'll do bad links. Sorry, bad practices. And you do the good stuff. Okay, I'll be back up. So buying links is a really big no-no, which is where you kind of buy, we talked about backlinks before, what it is, but if you pay a different website and say, hey, if you link back to me, I will give you like $100 a month or something. And they're like, okay, cool. So this is actually really bad because Google also knows what sites kind of use those kinds of methods. And so buying links actually Google will identify and penalize you for. So don't do that. Spamming other sites with link and comments. So like Quora, like Yahoo Answers back in the day, like a lot of other sites like that. Usually someone asks a question and then you see like at least 3/4 of the comments being like, hey, I bought this thing, it's amazing, check it out here, or great article, check out my recipe book here, you know, like that kind of stuff. So yes, spamming other sites with those comments is also very bad, because obviously Google sees where your site is mentioned, it sees when it was posted, who was posted by, and obviously, you know, whether it's relevant or not to the content it was posted to. So it's another bad thing that you don't want to include to not get penalized. So duplicating content. I know we had a question before that, like if you have content on your site and someone is taking it and putting it on theirs, Google can also see when the content was published. So if you're ranking for, you know, particular content and someone takes it, copy pastes it onto their site, they're not going to rank as highly for it because you were there first. What you can do about it, like realistically, probably not that much, because you can't really, you know, send a cease and desist letter to them or anything like that. So for you, it's important to keep kind of working on your content and try and I guess maybe put it behind some sort of not like a wall necessarily, but you can filter out IPs if you think that you know who this person is, or like a location that they're in, so they don't have visibility of your site in the first place. That's a little bit more complicated, but depending on how much it's affecting your business, yeah, maybe that's something we can cover a little bit later. But you yourself don't ever want to be copy pasting from anyone else. You can take obviously people's, you know, posts and websites for inspiration, but yeah, definitely don't just take their content, especially without their permission. And our last one is creating overly dense keyword content. So I think I mentioned before that having your keyword or your, you know, the thing that you want to be ranking for, just copy pasted millions of times on your website and on your pages is a big no-no with Google. Back in the day, like many years ago, when SEO was still brand new, a lot of people got really high ranking by, let's say like you're selling donuts or something, and you have a page, and at the bottom of the page, just in white text on white background, you just have the word donuts like hundreds of times, like, you know, spicy donuts, sweet donuts, donuts. So in the very early excuse me, stages, Google would think, hey, this site has a lot of keywords mentioning donuts. It must be good, so it must be relevant to people looking for donuts. Over that time, Google has improved immensely, and so people doing that are actually going to be penalized as well, and it's not going to help your ranking, so you don't really want to do that. So what you want to do is create content with the final user in mind, but still including those keywords where it makes sense without just, stuffing the page with those words. Does that make sense so far? I hope so.
Yeah, I think it's really good. We've actually got questions coming in from Facebook as well. So I know you want to get to those questions as well.
Yes, let's cover the questions because we've got quite a few.
Yeah, I think that it'll answer some of this stuff. So we've got when blogs are loaded on the website, how do we circulate them? Do we send the links by email to customers? And then the second question that's on Facebook, I'm going to add to this question, which is, do blogs increase your SEO standing?
Okay, so maybe I'll answer the last question first.
Okay.
Yes, that's the short answer, which is why so many websites have blogs. And the reason is that when we mentioned before that Google looks at how regularly you update your site and how relevant the content is, a blog is a perfect solution, because your services page you probably won't update for many, many months, or your About Us page. But a blog page allows Google to see that you're still working on your site, you're still including more content, and hopefully it's all relevant content that people are engaging with.
Cool.
So hope that works.
So the next part is, when blogs are loaded on the website, how do we circulate them?
I can answer that. So there's different ways and channels. So depending on what are your key channels are. So definitely share your stuff on social media, get people to see it through social media, get them to find your content, and then emails is a great way also. And the third one probably will be just ask other people to share and reshare your content as well, maybe some influencers in your industry or just your friends. So yeah, there's different ways to do so get more eyeballs to your new published content.
Okay, do you want to go on to the next one?
Yeah, I was just gonna, just while we're on the topic of sharing stuff, when you're creating content for your with your SEO in mind for your blogs and things, excuse me, try and think of it as you've got different types of content, which I think we talked about in a previous session before, but you've got let's say a really good chunky article with a lot of great information, with a lot of useful stuff that people can use. So you have that on your website and it's got all the keywords and everything else. You can take parts of that article and have it as little kind of teasers on your social media. So you can say, hey, here's a test that we've done with these particular things. You can read the rest here. You can take another, paragraph of the article and say, hey, here's what we found when doing this. So you can kind of adapt the content that you have instead of just sitting there being well, what am I going to write about today? What am I going to share today? Try and use your content that you already have to disseminate it to the other channels that you're using.
And don't forget to repurpose your content as well. Whatever blogs, for example, performed really well in the past, maybe create some similar topic or a similar structure for these blogs and reuse it again. Okay, so
actually, I heard something the other day that was really useful, and they kind of said, hey, look, if you're getting a lot of emails with questions in them, answer that question in a blog or in an email. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Obviously somebody's asking, so somebody wants to know. There's probably more people that want to know. So maybe that's a good way to get some content as well, like a commonly asked question that you're seeing.
Again, user-centered content, right? So whatever users are searching for, try to fulfill their needs by providing the high quality content.
Yeah, and if you don't have any idea what to write about, just have a look at Google Trends, what is relevant for your industry, what people are asking. And again, using things like Semrush. I think there's a bit here for here. So there's different questions as well. Oops. Right here. So there's questions options as well, what people ask. So this is probably not the best example, but does CCC cover plumbing Auckland? Or if it's, I don't know, become a teacher.
And then Answer Republic, remember the tool that we shared before, Anna-Marie? So
Sorry,
it's also a good tool. The Answer Republic, one of the tools that also has got a
I'll find it.
Also, it's also such a good tool to get people and never run out of content when you want to see what people are actually looking for.
I'll pop it in the chat.
Yeah, so we're not gonna stay here because we've got other questions. So it's really important. Such a good question. Can you get back to Optim and optimize the blog post, or is it better to get it right first time? I would say maybe it's better to archive the old one and rewrite the copy, knowing all the strategy, implementing your own new strategy, and then republish it again. So people will, so Google will see that it's a fresh content, it's relevant, instead of having it like last year content and use it again. So republish will be a good one. And also just thinking of YouTube, how you can fall in rankings for YouTube. It's completely different SEO strategy, because it's got for YouTube it's probably better to use and maybe reframe and rewrite the description itself and add more relevant keywords into the headers as well. But maybe if you got a chance to republish it, it's probably better to republish and have a fresh content.
Cool. So the next question is, how do you see what meta descriptions are from Google? Is it through Google Analytics?
No, that would be through whatever your site is built with. You can see what the meta description is just by simply Googling it, right?
Or SEO Optimizer showed us, right? Meta description.
Yeah. And let me tack on a question here, because it's on the meta description. So is meta description for the whole website, or is it just for like the title of the website, or is it for each page of the website as well?
This is for the website. So you are telling Google what your broadly your title for your website is, what broadly your description is. There is also specific things you can do for each specific page, but the most important thing is to have your site meta description and your site title URL. Title and URL.
Okay, perfect. So here we go. It says, I know that you haven't spoken about this yet, but I refer to the AMP pages. Now, I don't know what AMP pages are, so we might need to clarify that, because I'm sure other people as well. What if your platform doesn't offer this option? Since Google showcases and favors websites, this is important, do you think?
Sorry, what was the last part? So since Google...
So the Google showcases and favors website.
So AMP is accelerated mobile pages. So it's essentially, moving forward to a mobile centered experience for everyone. That's kind of where everyone is going towards, to make sure that it's as easy to use as possible. If you don't have that particular architecture, I guess, as part of your website, it's more of a do you want to continue giving a good experience to your users, or do you just want to have a mobile accessible page rather than mobile optimized page?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's such an important feature, isn't it? Because we just all use our phones now. I'd be interested to know what platform doesn't offer that currently. But,
I mean, I'm sure some custom ones,
You can easily check the mobile speed and mobile version itself by just clicking on the source and see how it's actually showing up your website and what are the banners how the banners displaying, things like that. So it's bear this in mind, and the site speed as well. And the last question is this something we can check and change ourselves, or do we need? Is it for the SEO optimization itself? With the web developer?
I think that's what it's about. It wasn't related to anything else. So your SEO.
Because AMP is definitely more complicated than that. But SEO, yes, you absolutely can change yourself, depending again on what kind of what your site is built with. but the easiest thing you can work on, even if you have no access to backend whatsoever, is on the quality of the content that you have on the site.
Now we only have like a minute left, but I know you wanted to do like
we wanted to. Yeah,
this always look. There's one website. There's two websites that people have popped in there. Like maybe you want to do the Calmly HQ.
Do really quick, yeah. And then we are always open for you to reach out to us anytime. And
Primo Digital, you can find them on, you can either find them like just by Googling, because they're obviously their SEO is awesome, or you can find them by on LinkedIn as well. And if you're not on LinkedIn and you're a business owner, I would highly encourage you to do that, because it's important. In this day and age, it's becoming more and more important.
So while this is loading, I'm just going to skip back to this, and I'm not going to cover the slides because you guys can review them a little bit later if you want. Just email us and we'll send you a copy.
Your slides, yeah.
These are the links that we mentioned today. So Page Speed Insights is this one here. And what it does is Google scans your site. So what it's going to look like on desktop, pretty good, 84. Well, not so great. And it shows you why it's not so great. And then what recommendations it can make to, and how to make this. So this is probably a little bit complicated to kind of cover in the next 0 minutes. But if you want to have a look, and you put your websites in, again, this is a free tool that Google has, but it will at least get you started on where there's room for improvement. And the second one we had was, I think, High Country Salmon, right? Is that right?
.co.nz. Yeah.
I'm just
.co.nz.
It doesn't let me copy paste from the chat for some reason.
It's a bit, for some reason you can't like copy paste out of the chat, which
yeah.
I don't know how to overcome that. Now there was a question here while that's loading that just said, what are the good SEO practices that were on the next slide?
Yeah.
Just skip back.
So the good practices are, just really quickly, we'll cover this up. It's when you, again, everything we talked about, not just use the keywords, and just do a research, like really good research. Find like 20, not 1, 2, like 20 best like performing keywords and use it for your SEO optimization. Optimize your content for local. It's more for brick and mortar businesses. When you want to get people come into your store, for example, you want to use the local names and the areas that where
and if you're nearby,
or the nearby, and also get more links to your website. Something we talked about, we covered as well. And probably the better way to do so, I would say, it's get a publication from media. Like media publication works perfectly for SEO, as people are like talking about you, obviously, or it's hard to get some mentions from New Zealand Herald, for example, but it's maybe some small media or like your area's community media works the best in this case. And put your users first. Do everything that when it comes to users, try to do and have all the relevant information on your website and site.
Make sure it loads as well.
Yeah, loading speed and everything. And then try to use the conversation, because when we're thinking about the keywords, we're thinking about the more keywords, the more exact phrase, like matched phrase I will put on, the better. But it's actually not that good, because remember 20% of searches, it's actually people are using the voice search. And when you're using the voice search, people are asking the question the way they talk.
Are you there? I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Bringing the conversational part of. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
It was just a little bit of a lag. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, but so that's very important.
And
I've also just dropped. We had a comment that was like, "Oh, I didn't get all of those links." Look, I actually have been pumping these links into the chat the whole time. So if you're on the Q&A function, go into the chat function and you'll see a whole bunch of website links there that you can use. I've put in the trends one, the Semrush is there. We've got the Google Ads is there, Screaming Frog, SEO Timer.
And you will get your slides after the presentation, I believe so.
Answer the public, I've popped in there, and I've also got the developers.google for the speed page insights link in there, so they are all in there. So
one very last thing, I just before we all go, the one thing we didn't talk about is Google Search Console. So this is actually part of your analytics. If you guys do have analytics installed on your site, which everyone should because it's free and really useful, there's a little button called Search Console, and so you have to essentially link it to your Google Analytics for all of that information, for you to see what someone has actually typed in before they came to your site organically. So that's really, really useful, and we probably will cover it in another session.
Yeah.
But sorry if we haven't had a chance to answer all of your guys' questions. Feel free to reach out.
I actually think we got through all the questions, Vika, which I'm super impressed because you guys always have a lot of content as well. But and I'm just popping in there for you guys that search console from Google, that's now in the chat as well. So we have all of those. We've got all the good stuff. Look, this was a packed session with people tuning in on all of the platforms. Thanks everyone for being there with us today. This is being here with us today. It's been an excellent session as always. And we are really lucky because Gal and Vika always like give us their PowerPoints to pop up on the site. So if you wanted to have this PowerPoint, you do need to be registered to Digital Boost. It won't be up there today. It'll be up there in like a day or so. And you can always reach out to Vika and Gal. They're so lovely and experts in this field with a wealth of knowledge. So we are really grateful that you've really just taken so much time to help us here at Digital Boost. Make our lives, more rich with knowledge. So
it makes our lives easier when there's more people that have good questions, right? And we don't have to explain it each time. So
and I will stay here for a minute. If you were trying to click on those links, I'll stay open for a minute so that everybody can get those links out of the chat. And then tomorrow, just if you're planning your day, because I know we're on lockdown, so a lot of people are tuning in. We're going to do Facebook Marketing 101 tomorrow, so you can tune into that with Stealth Digital. But you guys, thanks. I've missed you guys. I haven't seen you in ages. It's been wonderful.
Well, we have a few sessions to go, I think, coming up. So if you guys want, we also have done a bunch of sessions already on Digital Boost over the last however many months on, more specifically on like paid ads and social stuff and conversion rate optimization. And I can't even remember now.
I'm super excited for new upcoming sessions as well. We cover even more.
It's been awesome. And